Hello, everyone, and welcome to the wrap-up of the Mojave County Board of Supervisors meeting. This is the meeting on April the 17th, 2023. For those of you who may not know what we do, we take turns with each of the 5 supervisors, and they express some of the words and thoughts that they have on certain items that were on the agenda for that day and what happened. And today we're turning to the chairman and also, of course, one of the supervisors, Travis Lingenfelter, for his thoughts on a couple of the issues. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you, Roger?
I'm doing fine.
Good.
Hope you are too.
Doing great.
All right. Well, we had a very interesting meeting, and I know there are a couple of issues that in particular that you would like to talk about that we're going to turn to. One involves the legislature and the governor, and it should be very interesting indeed. Would you like to express that?
Yes, absolutely. So both the items I'd like to cover this morning are water related. One is specific to the state of Arizona, and that is the first item we can talk about this morning. So this morning, Mojave County was one of 4 Arizona counties. So we had Mojave County, La Paz County, Coconino County, and Yavapai County. I have worked with my counterparts and my colleagues on those boards of supervisors. I wrote a resolution with their input as well to talk about updating the Arizona Groundwater Code, which was adopted in 1980. But since that time, over 43 years later, those areas of Arizona, which is about 80% of Arizona that's still considered rural, that are not within something called an active management area or an irrigation on expansion area, there are no rules for who can use our rural groundwater basins, how much water they can use. So it's increasingly an issue, as you can understand. Water in the West is of growing importance. So I'm very thankful for Mojave County Board of Supervisors' partnership with our colleagues from those other 3 counties. And what the thought process is, with the new governor, we have over 50% of the representatives and senators at the state capitol that are new freshmen, not really familiar with our groundwater issues in rural Arizona. So we wanted to put together this resolution, get it adopted by all 4 of the county boards of supervisors, and then all at the same time, our plan is to present those resolutions in unison to the Arizona governor. We have a new governor this year, as I said, and also to the Arizona legislature, basically asking them to adopt some sort of a rural framework for protection of our groundwater. Rural Arizonans are just as important as those that live in the urban areas, in the cities. We deserve certainty in our water planning, just like those communities in the cities do, and we deserve water security as well. I mean, in a lot of instances, in rural Arizona, the groundwater basin represents 100% of a community's water supply. As we have here in the Kingman area, you know, the Wallapai Valley groundwater basin represents 100% of that community's water. So it's very important that we're good stewards and that we are, you know, having planning tools that we can make sure that we're safeguarded.
You know, it's very interesting. A lot of our younger people may not think about it this way, but there was a movie back in the 70s, you may recall it, may not, but very famous, Chinatown. Jack Nicholson, the whole issue was about, they said, you know, it's not gas, it's not oil, it's not gold, water. It's all about water. And that's the real hot button issue, isn't it? I mean, that is the most important issue facing our state right now.
In my opinion, it is. I really see that if you're in a position that's elected and you're representing your fellow citizens, you know, those 4 counties combined, we represent over 625,000 rural Arizonans, and they depend upon us to be at the table to advocate for them because they deserve water security. They really do, and their children do, and their grandchildren do. And so I see it as there's really no more important work in rural Arizona right now then to make sure that we push and advocate and educate towards additional groundwater protection.
All right, and speaking of that, there was a second issue that popped up in the agenda as well.
Yeah, so that issue, those that have been following the Colorado River, the multi-state Colorado River issues, the Colorado River has been in a prolonged drought for 22 years now. Thankfully, we had one wet year. It was a phenomenal year by all counts. We're hoping that the runoff is strong, but unfortunately, one wet year is not enough to wipe away 22 years of prolonged drought and fill up, both Lake Mead and Lake Powell. Those two basins are simply too large for just 1 year to fix the problem. So we also have a situation where the Colorado River system in its entirety is over-allocated. A lot of experts will tell you that it's already over-allocated in comparison to what the river is producing. And that puts us on a trajectory that we don't want to be on. It leads us to a place called minimum power pool, where if the water levels at those two basins hit a certain level, it's going to be very difficult to continue to produce power. And then even more scary below that is something called dead pool. And that's when water reaches a level, at least at Lake Mead, where the water simply won't be able to escape the dam. That's of importance because we have 40 million people that use the Colorado River. 25 million of those people are below Lake Mead. And so it's a pretty scary thought to think, what are those people going to do for water if water can't escape the dam, right? So the Bureau of Reclamation under the Department of Interior, they are the water master of the Colorado River. And they have issued, late last year, they issued something called a supplemental environmental impact statement to request comments about and ideas, how do we make these cuts? In June of last year, we had Assistant Secretary of the Interior Teuton say, hey, we need to make collectively an additional 2 to 4 million acre feet of cuts. Otherwise, this is going to lead nowhere but bad places. We're already in a level 2 restriction. Arizona being one of the lower priority states, we have so far suffered the brunt of a majority of those cuts. So the Bureau of Reclamation is trying to be collaborative, trying to work with the 7 basin states and the 10 tribes and citizens as well. They invited them to provide comments about how do we go forward. 6 of the 7 states in January submitted a compromise plan. Everybody but California. California opted to submit their own suggestion and plan to the BOR. And then also the 10 tribes submitted a plan. And then also you saw a lot of individuals, a lot of environmental groups, business groups also submitted comments. So that was in January. The BOR has now come out after looking and reviewing all those suggestions and those plans, have come out with what they call a draft of what a solution could be. And it looks at 3 alternatives under that EIS. It's a no action alternative. There's always going to be a no action alternative. What happens if we do nothing and we just continue to do what we're doing? And then they looked at an alternative number 1, which basically favored California and their priority rights. That would be very bad for Arizona. Under that alternative 1, Arizona would take at least 80% of the cuts, and all the cap water. There's a possibility all the cap water could be eliminated, which is bad for Phoenix and Tucson. And then there was an alternative 2 where it was more of a shared pain. California would share the pain in addition to all the other states. Those, if you ask the experts and those that actually study water all the time at the universities and whatnot, they see those as really like 2 bookend options. And they want to continue to work within those 2 bookend options to try to find some sort of a workable solution that's somewhere in the middle. So what we've had on our agenda today is, in order to represent Mojave County's rural communities, we want to be able to submit comments in support of our rural communities along the Colorado River within that 45-day comment period. There's a 45-day comment period with those environmental impact statements. We want to make sure that Mojave County's comments are heard and a part of that process as well. So thankfully, our board understands the importance of water. We have always, unanimously supported these things. We understand what's at stake. Everything that we do here in Mojave County is tied to water. And we want to make sure that we safeguard our natural resources, that we're responsible with them, but we have to look out for our economic development and make sure that the balancing act is there, and our water is going to be there for future generations.
Oh, and I certainly know, and I think everyone else knows, that your heart and mind is very much on this topic and will be for the foreseeable future, that's for certain.
Yeah, we've had a really good, we've been fortunate. I'll say we've been fortunate. Over the last 2 years, we've gotten incredible media attention, both from our state, from regionally. We've had stories and media pick up on it from the state. We've had news reporters come here to cover both the groundwater issues and the Colorado River issues. We've had national media that have picked up, and Mojave County has kind of become almost a go-to for these national stories, and we're proud to be in that spot. We're proud to have partnerships with the other counties, both on our river issues and on our groundwater issues. We're thankful for the media coverage at all levels. We're thankful to be able to advocate and to educate and to tell that story. Rural Arizona is never going to be politically or economically comparable to the cities. It's kind of a David and Goliath type of a situation. So all of that big media attention that we can get to tell our story is so beneficial to us. So we'll just continue.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Anything else you want to add at all?
No, thank you. I hope everybody has a great week in Mojave County.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's it for the wrap-up, and we'll be back here in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much.
Great.